So welcome to this week's episode of OceanViews. I'm here with Madison. Would you like to introduce yourself and what you do?
Yeah, of course. So hi, I'm Madison. I'm currently a junior at Vanderbilt University. I'm from North Florida, and I have a background in sea turtle comparative pathology and interdisciplinary diagnostic research relating to environmental awareness. And I'm also really excited to be just a youth advocate and get to work with other young people in conservation.
That's so exciting. And so I know that you're in college or university right now. I'm not sure what you guys call it. But you do so much. How do you balance that with your schoolwork?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think I care so much about the work that I do, and I've been doing it for such a long time that I feel like it's innate at this point to always make time for it. But it's definitely been challenging having a rigorous college schedule. I'm pre-veterinary, but it's worked out fine. I've really been organizing my schedule to mark out study time, youth advocacy time, and then, all among other extracurricular activities. Because I'm doing research in the school lab with the bio department, but I'm also continuing the research that I do from the summer and the publications that I'm working on. And I think I find it really rewarding to get to, have chats with other people like yourself who are doing wonderful work. And I always enjoy it, so it never feels tiring. But I have to have a really serious schedule to get it all done.
So organization is key.
Yes.
And because your degree is also like focusing on like animals, does that help sort of balance it out? Because just sort of everything's sort of related.
Yeah, that's very true. And something that I didn't realize before coming to college that I've now taken advantage of is communicating scientific information is, I feel like, almost as essential as collecting that scientific information. And so I've been able to pick up a second major in biological anthropology in addition to my environmental bio major. And I found it to be the coolest thing because I'm getting to incorporate this societal perspective on why we make the choices we do and how we can use that to work with people from different places. And so it's kind of fun to get to apply that in the environmental advocacy work that I do.
That sounds so exciting. It sounds like the dream degree. So has where you've grown up impacted your motivation to pursue environmental conservation?
Yes, for sure. I think being from Florida, I grew up by the ocean. I was inspired by the nature around me. I feel like I would not be doing the kind of work that I am today had it not been for the experiences in my hometown and meeting passionate individuals from my island. I think everything kind of all started for me when I was forced to do a science fair project in middle school. And my proximity to the ocean inspired me to kind of learn more about what was so close. And I think that's when I began to apply my situational awareness to the work that I was doing. And now, even though I'm in landlocked Nashville, I'm still able to take advantage of other bodies of water and kind of build on that foundation that I had from living on the coast. So I definitely give me some unique perspective.
And would that science fair be like your big moment of realization or like your introduction into this work?
Yeah, I would definitely say so. I had always grown up going to aquariums and zoos and spending time at the beach and the ocean with my family. And I would say from a pretty young age, I aspired to be a veterinarian, but I didn't realize that research and conservation would be such a big part of my path until my second year of science fair. I started contacting a bunch of experts in local estuaries and learning more about oysters randomly, and then building a project from that. And then I realized I really liked making connections and learning more about that realm and exploring the field. And so I just ended up making more connections to kind of push me to the work I'm doing now. So yeah, for sure.
That's so exciting. And I know for me, I started my organization as a school project. So it's amazing how you can see how school can so lead into this stuff.
Absolutely. And I'm seeing that application now. I think for you got started at a relatively young age too. And so I think we're lucky in the sense that we got to explore our passions then, whereas people in college are also figuring out what they want and realizing that they can build that into their major. And so, yeah, that additional experience has been really valuable.
Nice. So do you have any upcoming projects or current projects that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, so right now I'm not home. I'm in Juno Beach in South Florida because I'm in my second year working as a leatherback night technician, collecting blood samples from local species on the beach. I'm nocturnal now, so I'm working from like 8:30 p.m. to 4 a.m. getting blood and doing all that. So that's a current project that I'm really loving.
Wow, that's like so exciting. And doing all that, is there someone that inspires you directly in that work?
Oh, yeah. So throughout the process of getting into research, I faced a whole bunch of rejection, being a young person, being a woman in STEM, wanting to work with heavily protected species like sea turtles. And so I was able to identify one particular mentor, Dr. Justin Perrault, who works at Loggerhead Marine Life Center. And he has opened all of these doors for me and allowed me to kind of get myself in different spaces that I may not have otherwise been able to access until I was older. Instead of having phone conversations or having him ship me blood to do research in my school lab. And so it's very cool to get to see your mentors in action and to now 5 years in the making get to be in the field in the place that I had aspired to be for so long. And it makes all of the rejection and frustration and permitting worth it.
Yeah, and I love that perseverance. Like, you're not always going to get it first try, but that passion comes through when you like just keep going.
Yeah, for sure. And I know you've experienced that too with your kind of work. And I think it's a common thread in a lot of young people to have to just pick themselves up and move on and find strength in fellow youth and the work that they're doing, which is why I feel like the network, of people like you and me and from Ocean Heroes Boot Camp, which I'm currently involved in, we all support each other and kind of help each other out.
Yes, and OceanViews Bootcamp is such a great place to have all of that. Has COVID, I know America's had a very different COVID experience to Australia. Has that changed how you've worked, or has it like affected your work in any way?
I would say yes. I know when COVID first hit, a lot of my friends were facing challenges with internships that they had already set up. But luckily for me, I was working out in the field anyway, so I was still able to head to Loggerhead Marine Life Center to do my field work last summer. But it kind of changed how we interacted. We had a smaller team, we wore masks. When we were out on the beach, we interacted with a lot less people because people weren't really going out as much, which I thought was nice. We got to focus on the turtles. There were less false crawls because people with white lights had scared them off. It was a little bit easier to manage because we didn't have to really factor in the human side. But other than that, luckily I was able to go to school in person. It was very different. But a lot of my advocacy stuff was still over Zoom calls, which I love hanging out with people in person. I didn't get to go to DC for my Earth Echo meeting with everybody, but we got to do things over Zoom that we hadn't necessarily known was possible. So that was kind of cool. Lots of Zoom calls. Exciting challenge to myself to expand the reach of who I contact and how I coordinate things, and made a lot of collaborations possible that I hadn't thought about before. So, I mean, that's a positive side of it. I know everyone's really been struggling with like mental health and access to things during COVID, but we're getting through it now, hopefully. I hope you've been all right during the whole pandemic.
Yeah, we've been very blessed here in Australia, but I think, like as you said, like Zoom and everything, like it's opened the accessibility to everyone. We've worked with so many people that we'd never thought of working with before that just live in a different country, and we're like, oh, hang on a second, we can just hop on Zoom. It's been great. Yeah, it's been the one good thing that's come out of it. So you've done some amazing things in your time. What has been your favorite memory or like your proudest moment?
I think over the years, each stepping stone has been really valuable to me. and allowed me to go a little bit further in what I want to be doing. But an accomplishment that I feel like I'm most proud of is being the youngest participant in the annual International Wildlife Disease Association conference. So they've been in existence for almost like 70 years now, and it's mostly has master's students, doctorate students, people who have been in the field for years and years and years. And I was able to collaborate with some of my mentors to publish particular research as primary author. And so I was able to kind of get in that door and present my research abstract amongst all these really cool people. And so that happened all the way back in late 2018, but it still really stands out to me as a fun opportunity to, be among the adults and talk about my research first, and then maybe my age comes up, but that's not like the only reason why I was there or really who I got to interact with.
Wow, that's so powerful and like so exciting. So congratulations on that. That is amazing.
Thank you.
I think it's so powerful as a young person to have your age come second. To have your work come first and your age come second is such a big thing that everyone wants to happen. It's amazing that you had that opportunity to have that. So I guess age is a big challenge in this environment, but what other challenges have you faced and how have you overcome them and what have you learned from them?
Yeah, well, I think in addition to age, now I feel like I'm kind of old on the youth side. I just turned 20, so I'm like no longer even a teenager. But yet I still, face some challenges because I don't have like a PhD under my belt. I have not been to grad school. I don't have that many years of life behind me. But I think looking back, some of the main challenges I faced are people looking down upon me just because I had less experience than them. They assumed that I was in a rush to be a professional when that was like not even close to my goal. I just wanted to learn more about something I was passionate about and gain experience in the field that I was interested in. I wasn't trying to, jump into a job or secure myself in the workforce. So that was kind of frustrated. And I think in addition to that, there were some people that I met that didn't quite understand that I wanted to do something independent and unique. I didn't want to do a literature review. I wanted to jump into the work. And I think it's important for people to realize that you don't have to ease youth into what they're interested in. You don't have to start with something and wait for them to get older to start pushing them and challenging them in ways that you might challenge, a PhD student. And that young people, more than anyone else, are really chomping at the bit to have the opportunity to do something groundbreaking and new, and they have the capability to do that. And so that was really important for me to realize, not to be intimidated by someone's title or their words, and kind of jump in the places that I can.
That's such great advice as well for everyone else. I think it's sometimes hard for older people to just understand why we're doing this on top of our busy workload. They're like, oh, what's in it for you? I'm like, I'm just passionate and I really love this. And sometimes that's so hard for people to understand, and it's so hard to communicate that to everyone. But it's great that you're still going.
Thank you. Yeah, you too.
So obviously being a young person, we classify young people as 25 and under here. That's like ours. So we still think you're pretty young. Don't worry. So in your opinion, how powerful do you think your voices of youth are?
So powerful. I mean, like what I've experienced firsthand too when advocating in DC and speaking to lawmakers is when a young person enters the room, they stop and listen because it's a fresh face. Not the usual adults in suits who approach them. And so if anything, whether or not they initially take us seriously, they're at least curious to see what we have to say because we're different, we're new. And it's definitely a cliche that, young people are the future. I mean, it's true. But I think something that carries more weight is that we're learning as young people, and for me, like a woman in STEM, that you can't let age or other setbacks be a barrier to success. In my own experiences, my failures, my triumphs, I feel like I've been inspired to collaborate with as many of my peers as possible because we're all really invested in mobilizing our generation to take action for what we value. And so that's where I think a lot of our power comes from, because we recognize other youth, we're seeing other people do work, and we're joining forces to represent this larger wave of people who are passionate about advocacy and want to talk about things that they value.
That's so great. And our final question for you is, what advice would you have for aspiring change makers?
Yeah. Well, I'm still like trying to find my own voice, I feel like. But I think the biggest note I have is that when it comes to getting involved in eco-activism, you have to be persistent and remember your value as a young person. There are experienced adults who want to serve as mentors to young people, but maybe they haven't been exposed to your power yet. You just kind of have to weed through the annoying ones or the mean ones or the judgy ones to figure out the people that, maybe want to help you out, because they exist. They're out there. They're maybe few and far between. I think the numbers increasing now that we have our previous generation rising up in the ranks and reaching down to help young people up. And for me, I've cold emailed so many people, hundreds of people. And I've received a lot of rejection emails, sometimes no response. That just kind of just happens. You can't take it personally. But even, that one person who gives a kind response or a neutral response, you can, invest the time in learning more about the work they do, maybe finding someone else and then returning to them. But being persistent can be a great way to reap the benefits of a potential mentor that you maybe hadn't realized before. There's been a lot of cool opportunities where I cold emailed the person at the top of my list who I thought was like the coolest ever, exactly the work that I want to be doing. I thought they'd never respond, but then they responded and were willing to, talk to me, meet with me, and that's turned into several year mentorships. Whereas the person in my local estuary, local research facility didn't respond because I was some local kid. So you never know. Someone might view you as extremely, extremely valuable and you don't even see it in yourself. So remember that and take advantage of it for sure.
That is such great advice. Is there anything before we end that you'd like to shout out or share with us?
I don't think I have anything major. I'm really excited to be highlighted, and I know you've spoken to so many cool people. And so I can't wait to, talk to other young people. And if people see this and like want to chat about the work they're doing, I would love that as well.
That's great. So thank you so much for joining us today. I have learned a lot about your journey and your passion. It really shines through in all your work, and you're so eloquent in speaking. So thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you so much. It's good to see you.